out to us, and we can provide that to you.
All right. Thanks, Emily. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jess. Thank you for joining us for the March medical home call. This month we have Shelley from the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services and Mary Jane from OVR who are joining us today. So they'll be doing the majority of the presentation. I just quickly wanted to go over some announcements with everybody. So a few quick things. You'll see in the reminder pod under the little medical home house some important dates that are coming up. Next week, March 19th, is our final National Cultural Competence Call and webinar, and you'll be getting reminders about that this week. March 26th is the Professional Development Day that the Department of Health is hosting with the National Center for Cultural Competence, and you all should have gotten invitations to that if you were interested in attending that day. If you did not get the invitation, or if you still wanted to RSVP to that event, please contact Emily and she can send the information to you. We are not the ones hosting the event, so the RSVPs are actually going through the Department of Health. And as a reminder, April 25th is our medical home conference, so that is coming up. If you haven't RSVP'd yet, please make sure to do so. And then May 16th is going to be our care coordination training. Please make sure to RSVP to that by April the 18th. And for the care coordination training only, we're limiting it to just 1 or 2 people per practice because we do have limited space available for that event. Additionally, I wanted to remind everybody that quarterly reports are due the first week of April. You should have gotten an email with the web link to do those reports. If not, please let us know. And as a reminder, with your registry submissions, we need to make sure if you're going to email them to us that you've encrypted the actual file that you send us and that you've sent it using a secure email. If you're not sure about that process and you haven't met with either Lizanne or Jason yet, please reach out to them and they can discuss that with you. And we just want to make sure that, you know, everybody is on the same page with things. And finally, we just wanted to let practices know, just a little heads up, we did hear from the Department of Health that we have been selected and recommended to continue to be the medical home grantee going forward starting this summer. So we're in the process of negotiating the contract and all of that stuff with the Department of Health. So as of right now, we are the recommended grantee for the medical home program. So. All right, well, those are all the announcements that I have, and I'm going to turn this over to Mary Jane and Shelley.
Oh, thank you so much. And this is Mary Jane. I am pleased to be with you today. I work for the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, OVR for short, and I am in the Wilkes-Barre office. My role is the Early Reach Coordinator. Now, that's a new position in the state of PA so that we can reach out earlier to youth starting at age 14 and up, students with disabilities. There are currently 6 of us right now in the state located in Du Bois and Harrisburg, Norristown, and Philadelphia, and like I said, I'm in Wilkes-Barre, and there will be more added later on throughout the year. So let me just give you the 2 components to OVR. Next slide, please. There we go. Shelley and I both work for OVR. I'm in the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, as you will see, BVRS. We're all about acronyms. And so BVRS really focuses on helping people with disabilities to get competitive employment and to maintain that employment. And the other side of OVR, Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services, they focus on the same thing, but they start earlier, and they focus on helping people with the disability of a visual impairment. And they also work on helping those people gain employment, which Shelley will talk about. With the BVRS side, we start now with youth at age 14, whereas Shelley with BBVS, they start and provide service through the life. So what I wanted to do today is talk just briefly about the overview of the Early Reach Initiative. That's the next slide, please. And the mission of OVR, and a little bit about the referral process. We want to be a resource to you. And, of course, we want to partner with you as our community partners, working with youth with disability. So one thing to keep in mind is I'm sure you heard at some point growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, we all heard that from time to time, a question many of us were asked. But for youth with disabilities, this is often a daunting question that is filled with uncertainty and a lack of information. Our OVR counselors have been working with youth with disabilities to decide what they want to be when they grow up. And we've been doing that in schools since 1985. There is a collaborative agreement between the Department of Education, Special Education, and OVR so that we can be in the schools during what we call the transition phase, helping youth to transition very seamlessly from schoolwork to the world of work. So our OVR counselors traditionally met with people when they were about a year or two from graduation. But we learned that that is just too late. And so we have initiated just this year the Early Reach Initiative so that we can start reaching out at the age of 14, which is actually when transition planning starts in special education. In order to better serve our customers and meet the mission of OVR, we want to provide those well-rounded transition services. And like I said, there's 6 of us currently in the state. We're all trained social workers and have that expertise on not only being an advocate, but being an educator and providing information and referral. So ERCs, as we're called, again, I said it's an acronym heaven, ERCs are currently connecting with youth with disabilities. We're connecting with parents. Next slide, please. We're connecting with parents. We're connecting with educators and community agencies. And I'm really thrilled to be able to connect in with pediatricians and all the support staff within the home program so that we can connect and help each other. The purpose is to reach out to these youth with disabilities so they know about OVR and that they get ready to transition into employment. The Early Reach coordinators are knowledgeable about the full array of services that are available to youth, not only with our organization, but with many other organizations. So we're doing 2 things. Next slide. First, as Early Reach coordinators, we're doing group outreach. We're doing presentations to parents. I've been attending many parent support groups. I'm doing presentations in the classroom, helping students to learn about OVR and what we can do for you, but also to learn how to be a good self-advocate, to develop their self-determination skills, and to help them explore careers that they might be interested in. So we're educating parents, we're educating youth, we're also in the schools educating teachers, providing in-service training to teachers so that they can learn more about the services of OVR and they can make appropriate referrals. Like this organization, I'm in the community, meeting with whether it be the mental health community organizations, juvenile justice, the variety of coalitions, so that more people, the whole emphasis here is so more people know all about OVR. The other part of my job, like I said, there's 2 components. It's group outreach, but it's also individual outreach. As a licensed social worker, I'm providing individual support to students age 14 and up and their families to help them make that smooth transition. So we're reaching out one-on-one with students that might have a multitude of needs. And so we're helping them make that transition and make the effective plans. We want to help kids see that they have options, that once they leave high school, there are many options for them, whether it be funding to go on to college, to associate programs, or to training programs, but we want to be able to help them choose the right option. So we're reaching out purposefully and creatively, even including social media. The Pennsylvania Office of Vocational Rehabilitation has a Facebook page, and we're also on LinkedIn. Next slide, please. So, if you're a Facebook person, we'd love for you to like us and give us a like there or connect with us on LinkedIn, and that way you can keep up with all the things that are going on across the state with OVR. Next slide. We work a lot in the community, and through these community collaborations and connections, ERCs are helping youth embrace and utilize all the services available that they can use during their secondary years. We're really out there helping parents and youth understand what OVR does, but also what we don't do. So our goal is to connect our potential customers with many community resources. Next slide. So OVR is all about assisting Pennsylvanians with disabilities to secure and maintain employment and independence. Competitive employment, just to clarify, many of you probably already know this, but competitive employment means a job in an integrated setting, working 20 hours or more a week, but working at minimum wage or higher. It is not in a segregated community. Competitive work means that they are working in a job that anyone without a disability could hold. Now, we say the word disability quite often here, but I just want to clarify in the next slide what we mean by disability. And I'm sure many of you out there are familiar with this, but we see at our office disability as whether it's physical, developmental, intellectual, speech, visual, hearing impairment, but also substance abuse. Sometimes other professionals have not seen substance abuse as a disability, but we do consider it one, as well as mental health issues and medical issues. Now, just because someone has a documented disability, it does not mean that they're eligible for the services of OVR. We are an eligibility-based program. You will see in the next slide, thank you, that we offer many, many services. And I'm going to talk about my side, and then Shelley will talk about the children's program. With OVR, we are an eligibility program, so they have to meet certain requirements. It does have to be a proven disability, but it also has to be a disability that has a barrier to employment. For example, if a person is diabetic, yes, that's a disability, but if it's fully controlled, there may not be barriers to employment. So keep that in mind. The following are some of the services that we provide to youth in transition. We will do assessment and evaluation. We need to determine what a student is capable of doing. And while we'll request certain documents, we'll also send students for additional testing if needed. We do a lot of guidance and counseling, helping youth focus on what they want to be. And it has to be based, obviously, on their strengths, but it also has to be based on their interests, and so that they can make a good career goal plan. We provide placement services. We help them with resume writing and interviewing skills and going for the interview. We even provide, if needed, job coaches on the job to support somebody so that they can maintain that employment successfully. Next slide. We provide restoration services. So if van modifications are needed, if physical therapy, PT or OT or any assistive technology is provided, we can provide this for youth after they graduate high school. This cannot be done before they finish high school, but they will learn about those choices. And of course, like many organizations, primary insurance has to cover these expenses first. Next slide. Now, a key also to what we can provide for youth is training. We will financially assist for youth to go on to training programs, to go to college or graduate school, and to go right to work. So youth transitioning from high school have choices. They can go for more training, they can go on for more education, or they can go and seek employment. And so OVR counselors, the vocational rehab counselors, help with that process. It all centers around the job goal. So that's part of the guidance and counseling, and the VR counselors work with the individual to develop a realistic job goal. So it has to be one that's obtainable. And so we can provide many services to make sure that person reaches that job goal. We even have, as you'll see in the next slide, We even have a facility at the Hiram G. Andrews Center. This is the Commonwealth Technical Institute, where they do offer certificate programs as well as associate degrees and diploma programs. So this is located in Johnstown, PA. And of course, to go to that school, you must apply to OVR and go through our process. So I think what's critical for you to know, next slide please, is who you can refer. You know, who would be a good candidate of your patients, of your clients to refer to us. You may refer any youth age 14 and up with a disability who may need some vocational guidance and assistance in preparing for obtaining a job. So we work with people that are motivated to going on to employment. And so I'm going to give you some contact information before I wrap up about how you can connect with the ERCs in your area. We're here to support, you know, as youth transition from schoolwork to the world of work. And we know it's not an overnight event. It's quite a process. If you are located in Du Bois, Harrisburg, any of these areas, you certainly feel free, you know, to contact the early reach coordinators directly. If you are not in those areas, the next slide has Michelle Borman's contact information, and she is located at the OVR Central Office, and she can connect you into the correct office. You may also just Google OVR and get a directory of all of the offices. We all cover large areas. In our case, I cover 9, whereas Shelley's going to cover 15. But the best thing to do is to reach out to your local contact or Michelle. I've also included for your reference, because I'm sure many of you will get the recording of this later, these are resources that I have found useful in helping youth prepare for career development, and it's something that I think you also can share with your patients. It's a place that youth can go and begin to explore what they might want to do. There are many free resources and interest profiles for them to review. So I know this has been a whirlwind of information all at once. I'm available for questions after Shelley presents her information, or you'll have my contact information. You may email me at any time. I want to thank you for your attention, pass you off to Shelley, who's going to talk about the Visual and Blindness Service and the children's program that they offer. Thank you. Shelley?
Yep. Thank you, Mary Jane. My name is Shelley Faust-Jones, and I'm representing the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services. As Mary Jane said, we are both employees of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and each bureau has a different purpose. Everything that Mary Jane has told you as well applies to the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services within OVR, but we are a smaller branch. We are only 6 offices strong. We have an office in Erie, Pittsburgh, Altoona, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and Wilkes-Barre areas. Inside of each of those offices are multiple employees, but there are 4 to 5 social workers in each one of those offices. So that's a little different than the Mary Jane's side of OVR, in the fact that they only have one person being represented in each office. The reason we have more and need more is that we service children with visual impairments from birth up through the VR transitioning into work, as well as the adult population. So the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services services basically birth to death. We have our children's program, then we have our vocational program for working age people starting at age 14, and then we have a program for seniors called Independent Living Older Blind program. Today specifically, I'm speaking in regards to the children's services, but please keep in mind that our services extend for someone's lifetime, so any Pennsylvania resident that has a visual impairment, and our visual eligibility is the same no matter what age you are, and so any Pennsylvania resident that has a visual impairment is eligible for our services and could benefit from our services. But specifically today, we'll talk about the children's program. And Emily, if you could flip the slide, please, to the next one. This is our mission. It's the same as our adult mission, except we're specific to people that are blind and visually impaired, and we are there to promote and support the child in their home, in their school, in the school district, and in the communities. Next slide, please. This is our provider team for the child. Of course, we have the child, we have the parent or guardian. As I said, each of our 6 offices has 4 to 5 social workers that are trained to work with children specifically. We have what's called a number 4, a rehabilitation teacher. This is the reason that there's a separate bureau for people with visual impairments in the Commonwealth, is the fact that they are in need of trained professionals with specific skills, which is a rehabilitation teacher and an orientation and mobility instructor. A rehabilitation teacher is also sometimes called a vision rehabilitation therapist. If you see that term ever, it's the same thing. And this is someone who is a professional trained to do specific daily living skills. And they can offer occupational therapists and physical therapists all kinds of techniques to have the person function independently as possible with daily living skills. The orientation and mobility instructor is there to offer assistance in all kinds of travel skills. This involves having children or adults learn how to use a long white cane if that's appropriate, learn to ride public transportation, learn to cross the street, learn to get their own groceries, learn how to deal with the sighted public, learn to travel in a mall independently, all kinds of travel instruction. And then lastly, beginning at age 14, the same as in Mary Jane's case, we involve a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and that is all about the transition into the adult world of work. Next slide, please. Our visual eligibility is based on these 4 factors. Of course, there has to be a visual impairment for them to qualify for our services. These 4 visual eligibility criteria doesn't matter your age. It's the same for children as well as adults. Next one. There has to be an assessment of need for comprehensive services. We get phone calls that somebody needs their glasses repaired, and that is not someone that we could open up a case on. There has to be a need for comprehensive services, and in our line of work, that's defined as 2 or more services. We do send people for eye exams to determine their eligibility, and we can fund that. So if you have families that the person doesn't know if there's a visual impairment and they suspect it, we can send them for the appropriate eye examination to determine the eligibility. Next one, please. There is a financial needs test that the family will have to take. However, please don't even worry about that, because we have 2 types of services that are non-cost, what we call non-cost, and we can provide in-house, and then other services that we call cost services. Some of them are based on the financial needs test, some are not. So we have many people that do not fit the criteria with the financial needs test, but we can still provide them with in-house services at no cost. So don't let that deter you from referring anyone. Please refer them, and we will take it from there and determine what we are allowed to purchase for them or not allowed to purchase. And then finally, of course, they have to be a resident of Pennsylvania. Next one, please. Here's the role of our blindness and visual services social worker. As you can see, it's the same type of role that Mary Jane spoke of. Our whole mission is to assist any child in Pennsylvania that has a visual impairment, or any adult, of course. So we want to be out in the community. We want to be networking. We want to be hooking up with you and staff and provide the services, and they are at no cost in most cases to the people. Next slide, please. Additional roles of the social worker. I'll give you just a minute to look over them. Emily, can you back up when I do want to point out one? Can you back up a slide, please? I do want to see that. See there where it says about functional vision evaluations? I don't mean to bore you, but you're medical personnel, so you probably do know about functional vision evaluations, but just in case you don't, Low vision examination, we can pay for a regular vision examination. We can pay for what's called a low vision examination, which involves, it's a special optometric examination that allows for the use of devices such as magnifiers or closed-circuit television systems, that kind of thing for the eye doctor to determine, and then we can purchase those devices. And functional vision evaluations are non-traditional vision evaluations that for children that have lower cognitive abilities. Okay, Emily, you can flip to the next one then, and the next one. So once the social worker goes out and identifies the needs, which can be multiple things, from anywhere from, needing what's called low vision aids, or just needing an eye exam, or just needing information about how to network with the school and how to negotiate the process of the individualized education program and help parents navigate through the school system. The social worker can also as well send out one of our rehabilitation teachers or one of our mobility instructors. Most of our instruction, of course, is in the summer months because of the children being, at school and their days occupied. But you can refer at any time out of the year. But our services will most likely be provided in the summer for these particular services, not for the social worker to be involved. They can be involved at any time of the year. But the social worker will organize this all for you. Next slide, please. The rehabilitation teaching services, as I said, can offer a lifeline to parents. Even if a parent is a very seasoned and skilled parent and has raised several children, they most likely have not raised someone with a visual impairment or with blindness before, and so that can really change everything and can throw them for a loop, and they may not know where to turn or what to do, or no matter how good their skills were with raising a fully sighted child. Our rehabilitation teacher and our social workers can provide a lifeline for the families and provide them with consultation and information and connect them to school district personnel and help them navigate that whole system of what services to use from birth to 3, what services to use from birth from age 3 to 5, and then what services to utilize within the school district. And our people can help the parent with that. So here are our primary concentration if rehabilitation teaching services are offered, and again, that's the service providing daily living skills. That would focus on a child on developing eating skills, using appropriate techniques for someone who is blind or visually impaired, learning how to determine their own clothing colors, teaching Braille instruction, teaching adaptive cooking techniques for people that are blind or visually impaired. As the child gets older, being able to sign their name on a check, any kind of daily living activity. The next slide, please. We have to prioritize because we have waiting lists. Again, this would not be for you to be concerned about. The social worker will explain this all to the parents and also will be able to give them a time frame of when the instructor would be out at their home. The instructor generally comes once a week and provides instruction to the family. Our instructors can also assist any of your personnel that you have going out on the phone and providing consultative services. Okay, next slide. Orientation and mobility is the other specific and unique service that is provided in the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services. Again, like I said, this is for people that, which almost everyone who has a visual impairment needs this service. It involves instruction in learning how to travel safely, both in an indoor and an outdoor environment, learning how to cross the street. And I know you're probably all sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, if I had a child who was blind or visually impaired, I'd never have them cross the street. And that's exactly the purpose of providing orientation and mobility instruction at such a young age, that the parents, first of all, realize that their expectations should be the same as it was for the sighted siblings that they've raised, and also to provide them with instruction as to how to foster those skills and develop those skills, as well as direct instruction to the child themselves. And again, because of our waiting list, we do prioritize, but again, the social worker would determine that and would be able to provide a time frame for the parent. Next one. That's me and my contact information. Same as Mary Jane, giving Michelle Bornman's contact information at the end. If you contact me, I will filter you wherever you need to go. And simply all I would need is the child's name and address and phone number. And we will take it from there. I would need an address so that I would know specifically which social worker in which office to send the contact to. But if you would email me with any referrals, that's actually all I need. And you know, I would have who you are and your name, and I would get it to the person, and they would contact you and take it from there. So basically, we need very little information to get us started, and then our program will take care of the rest. So we really hope that we've provided you with resources, that you know where to go for any person that comes through your office that you're dealing with that has any type of disability whatsoever. That's what OVR is there for. We're there to help them. And if the person is blind or visually impaired, we start that at those services at birth. And any other disability, as Mary Jane said, we start that service at age 14. So thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to open it up to anyone for questions for either Mary Jane or myself.
Great. Thank you so much, Shelley and Mary Jane, for letting us know about those great services that are available to pediatricians across the state. And what I'll do now is, just to make sure everybody's aware, please go ahead and mute your computer speakers if you have the webinar on your computer and you're also connecting on the phone, just because we do want to avoid that, that feedback that we do get. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody, and if you would like to ask Shelley or Mary Jane any questions about the presentation, feel free to do so. So now everybody should be unmuted, and go ahead and ask any questions.
Morgan? Yeah, I said do it today, or you're paying me back.
Hi everyone, just wanted to make sure you know you're on, everyone is unmuted now, so go ahead and ask any questions that you have for Shelley or Mary Jane.
This is Eve Kimball. I just have a question about, is there a particular IQ level or cognitive level that OVR, below which OVR will not work with folks? And I'll mute my phone.
Hi, Eve. This is Mary Jane, and Shelley can chime in also. We would rather get the referral and determine from there, because every case is so individual. You can't just say, okay, anyone below 70 is not eligible for services. You know, there may be. It depends on their ability to be independent, to work independently. You know, we can provide the supports to help them work towards that. I think the primary thing to think about is someone who's motivated for employment. That's one of the precursors. So we want to work with those individuals age 14 and up with disabilities that are motivated to seek gainful and competitive employment. And do not eliminate someone from the referral process because of maybe an IQ test or intellectual disability. No, we would be glad to work with them and determine if they're eligible for services. Shelley, anything to add to that?
In our case, if the person is visually impaired or has blindness, many times that is accompanied by secondary conditions of intellectual disability as well. And you still want to refer, Eve, just like Mary Jane said, and we'll determine if we can help them or not. In our case, most of the time we can help them, and in the fact that even if services through us are not appropriate, our social workers are well equipped to provide them with other resources and to provide the parents with informational types of things. So even if we can't provide direct instruction, there's a whole lot of other things. We can pay for eye exams, we can pay for equipment, that type of thing. So absolutely make your referrals and let OVR determine the rest. And that was a great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
This is Shelley. I'd like to ask a question. In your offices, could someone let us know, like, what have you done in the past when people have come in and there's someone with a disability? Did you have any resources to offer them, or would we be your first resource now?
This is Eve again. The reason that I asked the question that I ask is that we've been a little discouraged and disappointed with the referrals, the response to the referrals that we've made, and a little bit also the training that some of the kids have received. For example, we had a young man who lived in downtown Reading and was found a job and was trained for a job, but he had to take a bus to get there, which was fine, excepting that the bus stopped at 6 o'clock at night, and his job was a nighttime job from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. So a little bit, we've been a little frustrated.
Mm-hmm. Was that a person with a visual impairment, Eve?
It was not. It was a person with a seizure disorder who was able to work, but had some intellectual disabilities.
Mary Jane and I apologize for that. That seems like that should have been a consideration that the counselor took into account when assisting with the role of, finding the job and getting the person ready. If you have specific concerns for a specific case, you could call Mary Jane and she could check into it for you then, or if it would be a person with a visual impairment, I could check into it specifically. If you'd want to, when the call is over, provide her with that confidential information regarding the person's name, and she could follow up on it, if that would be helpful.
Thank you. And part of it was our problem because we did not have a direct line to OVR, so your information today was very helpful.
Okay, good.
Eve, I'm glad you brought that up, and I appreciate you sharing that. And certainly feel free to reach out to me or Michelle Borman, who is at the central office of OVR, and she would certainly handle it. But Shelley's absolutely right. I mean, there are things that a counselor could do, especially with somebody with intellectual disability. There's so many other support coordinators and many services available to help make sure the person can not only do the job, but get to the job. That's critical. And I appreciate you sharing that frustration with us. Please never hesitate, to call Michelle, call me, or call Shelley with those concerns.
Another thing, Mary Jane and Shelley, is I think, Mary Jane, you had asked if the practices had access to some of the resources in the past about for their patients with disabilities and sort of how they would go about making those referrals. And Mary Friebel, who's from Reading Pediatrics, did say that that in Berks County they do have that Project Search site, which is the collaborative between OVR, BCIU, and DECA. So that's a kind of a good way that they've used in the past to go ahead and make those referrals and get some resource help.
Good. Okay.
Does anyone else have any kind of either questions or maybe some ideas about resources that you've used in the past for children used either with special needs or with visual impairment specifically? And it looks like Repepi Peds has raised their hand. If anyone's on from Repepi Peds, you can go ahead and just speak into your phone. Let's see. Or you can speak into your microphone, I think, as well.
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Me neither.
Okay.
There's a little technical problem there, but
Okay.
Regardless, it looks like we had some feedback, and what we'll also do is for those of you who do kind of have some ideas or questions, what we can do is in our follow-up email to the meeting today, we can include the contact information that Shelley and Mary Jane provided, and we can also, you know, take questions and refer those questions to them as well. So we can continue to field some of the feedback that you guys can provide afterwards.
And Emily, I'm
Will
sort
you
of on
send
the
that,
report.
Sorry, what was that?
would you forward a copy of the slides, Emily, to us at the end?
Sure, we can definitely work on doing that as well. And Mary Jane, were you about to
Yeah.
say something as well? Yeah.
I was. I didn't want to interrupt someone else.
Sure.
Sort of like Shelley asking a question, I'm not sure where everybody is located.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm just curious, what are some of their frustrations or difficulties with the transition system? And I'm sure everybody here on the webinar has different roles. So I guess I'm also, as you're learning about us, I'm learning about you. I don't know if somebody could share, what some of their frustration might be currently maybe working with youth with disabilities. Are there frustrations with school systems, with a lack of community supports? What are you seeing that are some of the gaps in services, I guess?
Well, I can just say before some of the practices weigh in that we do have practices, and I can see on the call that we do have practices from really diverse areas of PA, kind of from sort of all over the place. So yeah, I think you're right that there is that kind of a widespread experience of transition, but it is different for each location. So yeah, if anyone wanted to go ahead and respond, that would be great. And then so Mary said that, and she's from Reading as well, she just sort of typed a comment into the Q&A pod, which you can also do. She said that one frustration they have is that parents are hearing from OVR from our office, but not from their transition coordinator at school. So maybe that's something that's a concern that that at Reading Pediatrics they're making OVR referrals, but that at their school, whether it's through their IEP or other services, they're not really hearing about it from that end. So that's something that they may be encountering.
If I could say, Mary Jane, and not to steal your thunder, this is Shelley, but the early reach coordinators are in multiple phases, and there's 15 offices, so 5 offices have been equipped with an early reach coordinator. Now the second group of 5 offices equipped, and then in the fall, the last group. And I want to say that Reading, Mary Jane, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Reading's early reach coordinator, they just got equipped with that person very recently. Isn't that correct, Mary Jane? I think they were in phase 2.
I thought they got moved to phase 3, but
Oh.
you know what? I'm
okay.
not
Because
sure.
when by the end of the year, all the offices will have an early reach coordinator, and then that would be the person that would be going to the school transition coordinator and speaking with them, and that should ease that problem. But until Reading gets their early reach coordinator, that's probably not going to be fixed.
Right, and that's, definitely by the end of 2014, all offices of OVR will have an early reach coordinator. I do believe Reading's maybe closer to late summer.
Okay.
That's good to know. It is 1 o'clock, so I want to be mindful of everyone's time. But also, please feel free, as always, to go ahead and reach out to sort of us here at MHI, or if you want to reach out directly to Shelley or Mary Jane with questions or comments, feel free to do that as well. And what we'll do is send out a follow-up email for you guys with some of that information so that you have that available to you. But I really just want to thank Shelley and Mary Jane for providing this information to us. It's been really, really helpful. If you'd like a copy of the recording of the presentation, just let me know. We can have that over to you guys as well. But otherwise, thank you so much, and we will touch base with you guys soon. So thanks a lot
Thank
again,
you for
Shelley.
the opportunity.
You're
Thank
most
you.
welcome. Thanks.